Good evening, Mr. Bond fans. In a franchise as long-lasting and multimedia as James Bond, there's bound to be some plot similarities and repetitions over the years. But a Bond video game geek like myself can't even think of the word nanobots without hearing Willem Dafoe say,
"First, we take over Russia. Then we unleash our little nanobots on the world."
So when nanobots turned up as a plot device in No Time to Die, I had some major flashbacks to 2004's Everything or Nothing, but that wasn't the only plot similarity the 25th Bond film has with Bond video games of yore. Oh no! So did the filmmakers dust off their PlayStation 2s to seek inspiration when writing the film? Do EA games deserve an on-screen story credit? Was the use of nanobots specifically a subtle reference to the fact that they were being used in Daniel Craig's 5th Bond film, and Everything or Nothing is often referred to as the 5th film that Brosnan never had? Or is it all just a massive coincidence? I think the answer is obvious. Phoebe Waller-Bridge just can't get enough of GoldenEye Rogue Agent. So here's the stuff that caught my attention. Here are some of the bigger similarities between No Time to Die and James Bond video games. Let's stick with nanobots for now, as I think it's the most obvious connection No Time to Die has with a Bond game. In Everything or Nothing, Willem Dafoe's Nikolai Diavolo hatches a plot to use nanobots to take over Russia and then all of Europe. His special platinum nanobots eat through any and all metals except for platinum, leading the villain to assault the Kremlin with an army of tanks made of the precious metal. This is obviously a very different application of nanobots than what we see in the Daniel Craig film, where they're really more of a high-tech virus that are apparently indestructible once they enter a person's system, programmed specifically to kill anyone matching a corresponding DNA sample. How is it that the Daniel Craig film ends up being more sci-fi with nanobots than a video game?
We're not science fiction, we're in fact science fact.
Okay, science fact with nanobots than a video game. Of all the Bond game plot devices, nanobots were very low on the list of what I ever thought a Bond film would end up using. Heck, I was even gearing up for the possibility of cloning being a part of the plot, similar to 2001's Agent Under Fire, the head of nanobots.
Mr. Bond, what an unpleasant surprise. You're just in time for the final countdown.
Those missiles have been deactivated, Diablo. The nuclear warheads were removed years ago.
That's quite correct, 007. Except that I replaced them with nanotech payloads, which will do the job just the same.
Is it weird that nanobot nukes make more sense to me than nanobot viruses? Please do let me know in the comments below. We're going a little bit more obscure with this next talking point with the Bond game GoldenEye Rogue Agent, a loving, homage to its N64 classic namesake, which pays tribute by taking the game's incredibly lucrative nostalgia-friendly title and having absolutely nothing else to do with the GoldenEye property. In the game, you actually play as a disgraced MI6 agent who goes to work for classic Bond villain Goldfinger, who is caught up in a bit of a war with fellow classic Bond villain Dr. No. The concept of battling villains with the protagonist caught in the middle being very similar to the Blofeld-Safin sparring in No Time to Die. While of course Bond isn't working for Safin in No Time to Die, he does play into the mastermind's plan of assassinating Blofeld, so Bond is a similar pawn in the war as GoldenEye is when he kills Dr. No at the behest of Goldfinger. The fact is that GoldenEye Rogue Agent is not a very good game. No, I know it's a hot take, but it's true, but one of the stronger elements of it, I think, has always been the story, and the idea of pitting Bond villains against each other is really cool, and I was happy to see that concept appear in an actual Bond movie. And that's not the only similarity the film shares with GoldenEye Rogue Agent, because apparently this game is the font of all Bondian creativity now. Well, thank you very much for your script outline, Mr. Writer. We particularly appreciated that you included a list of references with it too. I mean, it's very clear from this, you watched all the Bond films, even the unofficial ones, you've read all the Ian Fleming novels, you've even watched every episode of James Bond Jr., which is highly unorthodox, but I'm afraid that there's a rather gaping hole in your research.
I still get the job though, right?
Security. The massive contrivance the game makes to warrant its tribute title is that it gives its protagonist a literal golden eye, created, well, I guess fittingly, by the man with the golden gun himself, Francisco Scaramanga.
The retinal nerve surgery went well. I hope you are recovered. You'll notice the eye's tactical array has been activated for your next mission.
But not only is the eye something that had stunned even the most world-weary of pawnshop brokers if you were trying to trade it in for a few bucks, but it is bionic and features such special abilities as MRI vision, electromagnetic hacking, polarity shields, and a magnetic field transducer. Don't ask me what any of that means, but it makes for some cool gameplay. It was a major feature of the game, so when Primo here turns up in No Time to Die with a bionic eye that transmits what he's seeing back to his boss Blofeld, who was incarcerated in jail, I had flashbacks, and believe me, GoldenEye Rogue Agent is something I don't flash back to all that often. But before we get to the final big similarity No Time to Die has with Bond games of yore, I wanted to mention a couple of other moments in the film that had me feeling like I was watching some kind of super high-def playthrough. And I mean that in the best possible way. There's a sequence where Bond is being stalked around a foggy forest, which totally reminded me of the jungle level from the original GoldenEye, inching bit by bit through the fog, seeing bullets flying at you but not necessarily being able to see who's firing them, luring enemies closer with strategically timed sounds. I was wondering if we were going to get a Famke Janssen cameo at some point during the film. The next smaller moment that had me flashing back to a misspent youth playing Bond games was the stairwell fight. It's one of the best action sequences in the whole thing, presented as if it's a single take, but stairwell shootouts were features of a couple of Bond games. The World Is Not Enough on the N64 and Nightfire. It's a real shame there's no Bond game tie-in for No Time to Die. The levels pretty much design themselves. And so we come to my final point, and probably the most significant similarity that No Time to Die shares with a Bond game. In fact, all Bond games, most Bond games, it shares this similarity with, and I'm of course talking about the fact that, well, James Bond dies. Whether accompanied by a gun barrel style blood trickle or not, most Bond games feature the mechanic that, well, if you fail a mission for whatever reason, James Bond can die. Heck, on some of the multiplayer features, you can even kill him yourself, and this Bond isn't even infected with nanobots. Maybe audiences of a certain generation, i.e. my generation, should really have been used to the idea that the character can in fact die in a blaze of flames.
You were directly responsible for the death of 007. Your tactics are inexcusable. There's no place at MI6 for an agent like you.
Now, do I think that all of these are intentional references to Bond video games? Well, you probably have about as much chance of finding a clip of Cubby Broccoli admitting that Moonraker was in fact science fiction after all, but still, whether intentional or not, the film does share some DNA with Bond's virtual adventures, and hey, we're coming to a point in history where future Bond film creatives may well have grown up playing Bond video games themselves, so who knows what the future may hold. I mean, could we get a film adaptation of Nightfire? Will cloning be a part of a future Bond plot like an Agent Under Fire? Will there be a remake of From Russia With Love so loosely adapted that it makes you wonder why they even bothered to call the thing From Russia With Love at all? The possibilities are endless. These are just some of the similarities that I noticed, and if you noticed any more, then please do let me know in the comments section below. As you know, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, I'm a huge Bond game geek, so the more talk about Bond video games out there, the better. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, please do consider scrolling below and clicking the subscribe button, and if you want to stay super up-to-date future videos that I upload on this channel, you can also click the Mrs. Bell button to receive notifications whenever I make a new upload. Also below, as always, are links to my social media pages, including my Facebook page, my Twitter page, and my Patreon page, for those of you who want to go one extra step in supporting this channel. And, oh hey, yeah, I'm leaving my Instagram link down below now as well, so if you are on that platform, please do feel free to follow me there. And with all that being said, and until next time, Bond fans, so long for now.